Hi, I'm Richard Maraj, Senior Minister at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center, and I want to thank you for visiting our website and for tuning in to today's message. If you feel inspired by today's talk, I really encourage you to make a donation by hitting that button below and making a contribution to this ministry. It'll allow us to continue these messages online and to do the great work we do here at Unity of Phoenix, which is to inspire people to live better lives. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support, and we hope to see you at a Sunday real soon.
All right, good morning again, everyone. And a shout out to everybody who tunes in and watches us online. So how many people are excited about the new year, about a new beginning, about a fresh start? Yes. And how many people already have some goals, some resolutions, some intentions and desires for a better life in 2018? How many? You know, it's hard not to get excited about a new year, new possibilities, new opportunities, new experiences, you know, starting with a clean slate. It's like a reboot that we all get, and another chance to do some of the things we didn't get to do, and an opportunity to make some changes to achieve even greater things and improve our lives. New Year's is an exciting time. It is a time of joyful anticipation for a better life in whatever form that better life looks like for us. It could be losing some weight and getting in shape, having a better, healthier diet. It could be spending more time with our family. It could be starting a new relationship. It could be reducing debt. It could be increasing our sales. It could be spending more time in meditation, taking a yoga class, planning our dream vacation. But whatever it is, there is always an enthusiasm that this new year will be a better and happier year. But how many people had a tough 2017 or ever had a year that was so tough that by the end of it, you just wanted it to be done with and over? Anybody have one of those years? You know, sometimes the current year, as it's waning, can feel tired and old and kind of have worn out its welcome. And we just want it to be done and over with. We just want to say adios, goodbye, see you later, sayonara, hasta la vista, and don't let the door hit you on your way out to that year. Anybody have a year ever that bad that you just wanted to get it over with and be done? And you know, the funny thing about it is the year that we sometimes want to be done and over with and good riddance to 12 months ago was the same year that we got excited about. The same year that we couldn't hardly wait for it to start. It was the same year we joyously and excitedly and enthusiastically welcomed it, and yet at the end of the year, we wanted it to be done and gone and start a new one over again. You know, and I think this pattern of wanting the old year to end and the new year to begin and just leaping and wanting to rush right into a new and fresh start to a happier and better life sometimes is more of a hindrance than we realize. A pattern to end quickly and start something new sometimes is not the healthiest. It's not the best. Sometimes it can be harmful and even detrimental to our level of happiness and our well-being. And I think it creates an unhealthy cultural pattern that we have. You know, studies show that everybody sets New Year's resolutions. We love them, set them. But by the first week, 30% aren't doing them anymore. By a month, 80% have forgotten what their resolution was. And only 5 to 8% of resolutions actually get achieved. And I think some of this is that pattern. You know, New Year's resolutions seem to be like it is a thing that goes in one year and out the other. That one is just one of those slow release jokes. It's going to hit you on the way home, really. You're going to bust out laughing later. So tell me if this resonates at all, this pattern of this person. 2012, their resolution, I will get my weight down below 180 pounds. 2013, resolution, I will watch my calories until I get my weight below 190 pounds. 2014, I will follow my new diet religiously until I get below 200 pounds. 2015, I will develop a more realistic attitude about my weight. 2016, I will work out 5 days a week. 2017, I will work out 3 days a week. 2018, I will drive past the gym at least once a week. And you know what the issue is about wanting to end things quickly and start a new thing quickly is that what happens is we end up taking the same us into the new year. The same patterns, the same mindset, the same lack of focus or discipline. And so we end up having the same pattern and getting the same results, or not getting the results that we want. You know, by rushing, what often happens, we often miss the benefits, the value, the gifts, and the blessings that the past year has to teach us. We just let our disappointment that we aren't as happy as we want to be trigger us to go do something like, to start a new relationship, get a better job, something that'll make us happier. And if we're not happy with it, we just want to go get that thing. And the fact is, and the truth is, that pursuing happiness in that scattered way doesn't make us happier. In fact, it makes us more unhappy. Do you know that even though life is getting, and it actually is getting measurably better for all people, that life is actually improving and getting better, that the incidence of suicide and depression, of people feeling lonely and depressed and hopeless, is actually higher than it's ever been. And the interesting thing is about the correlation of suicide is not with how happy or unhappy you are. There is something deeper about why we feel hopeless and alone. And that thing is meaning. That when we feel that our lives have meaning, that gives us hope. When we feel our lives have meaning, that gives us a reason and a purpose to go on. That sometimes this world is driven with happiness where there is something deeper and more profound, and that is, what is its meaning? And what is the meaning of our lives? And what meaning are we giving to life? I was reading a book this week by Emily Esfahani Smith, and it is entitled The Power of Meaning, Finding Fulfillment in a World Obsessed with Happiness. That we are so driven to happiness that we sometimes miss meaning, which really gives us fulfillment. Happiness doesn't give us as much fulfillment as meaning does. You know, people who have meaning in their lives tend to be more resilient. They tend to feel more fulfilled. They tend to do better in school and in work. They tend to live longer. People who have meaning in their lives tend to have better perspective. They tend to be able to endure and persist. They tend to have insight and understanding, to have greater wisdom and acceptance and appreciation of many things. Because the whole idea about meaning is about a sense of belonging. It is about a sense of serving something greater than ourselves and realizing we are here to develop and bring out the very best within ourselves. Here are the 4 pillars, and I've mentioned a few of them already. The 4 pillars, she says, to develop a life of meaning. That the 4 pillars are, number 1 is a sense of belonging. That we yearn for connection and love and a bond between others. That is the most powerful thing to give life meaning, is how we are in relation to one another. And feeling that we're connected, feeling that we belong, whether it is with our family or whether it's with our friends or in our community or school. And to know that our calling, that we hear, that we do belong, that we are meant to be here, and that we are a significant part of here. And then the next one is purpose. And that is to know that the gifts and talents and the passions that we have, the creativity we have in us, actually helps and makes a difference and serves other people in the world, and it makes other people's lives better. Remember the book On Fire by John O'Leary? There was a point that there was somebody, he was burned 100% of his body, and so with no skin, you're more susceptible to infection. And he was in a sterile environment, and the janitor had to keep cleaning every single day to keep it sterile. And the doctor said to the janitor, "You know what you're doing?" He said, "No, I'm just cleaning this room." He said, "No, you're keeping that boy alive. That you're more than just mopping a floor, you're keeping it sterile to support this young man in healing and staying alive." And right there, that guy switched for that man the meaning of what he was doing. It was the same activity. But suddenly, instead of mopping floors or keeping a place clean, suddenly he was keeping sterile to keep a young man alive. That he was supporting the health and healing of someone. And sometimes just getting a deeper meaning of what we're doing, even if it's the same activity, switches the way we do it. Switches the feeling and the intention that we do it in. Third thing is transcendence. And that is to connect to a higher reality of being in a flow, of losing oneself in something. And it can be in a sunset or looking at the stars. It could be while you're painting or sculpting. It could be enjoying nature. I mean, it could be doing anything where you feel something bigger, higher, and a connection beyond yourself. That gives meaning. And then the final one, and she says the most important one, is the story you tell about what happens to you. That it isn't what's so as important as what happens to you, but it's the story that we tell about what happens to us. That do we tell the story of a victim? Or do we tell stories of lack and pessimism and hopelessness? Or do we tell stories of hope and possibility and learning and growth and overcoming? That every one of us has the power to tell the story, to edit, to create, to transform whatever it is that happens to bring forth our best, to call forth and to create the best of ourselves and the best life. This storytelling idea is the meaning we give to the experiences in our lives. Every one of us, no matter what happens, we can give that thing meaning. No matter how difficult it is, we can say that that has value and meaning to help me be a better person and help me serve and make a greater difference. The stories we tell, the things we think about the things that happen to us are more important than the things that actually happen to us. Remember when Shakespeare said in Hamlet, nothing is, but thinking makes it so. Remember Henry Ford? He said, if you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. Because it's the thinking and the creation of what the stories we tell ourselves that really shapes the impact and the experience of the things that we go through and the things that we do. Here's a biblical example for you in the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 19. It says, so out of the ground the Lord God formed every animal of the field and every bird of the air and brought them to the man, Adam, to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was its name. And what the story is saying is God has given us the power to name the things in our lives. And sometimes we name things bad and name things hopeless and name things tragic and horrible and impossible. Or we can name things hopeful. We can name things wonderful. We could name things a lesson. We could name things successful and possible. There are all kinds of things. And she says the most important thing that makes a difference in life of meaning is that the stories that we create should be stories of redemption, stories of hope, stories of overcoming, stories of growth, stories of learning, that we literally can transform anything in our lives to be something greater. So let me ask you right now, think of something in your life in 2017 that happened that was a little bit challenging and a little bit difficult for you. And my question is, what story are you telling about it? What meaning are you giving to it? And what are you naming it? Are you seeing is it hopeful and possible and wonderful? Or are you seeing it as negative and horrible and impossible? You know, I believe when things happen in our lives, we have three choices. We can use it to help us rise to a higher level, or we can use it and it can take us down, or it can leave us unchanged. And all that matters is the story we tell about it and how we name it and what meaning we give to it. So back to that thing in 2017, what thing didn't work as well or was challenging? What's a better story you can tell? What's a different thing you can name it? And what is a more positive meaning you can give to it? Recently, you know, they tell those stories on Facebook. I saw this guy give this commencement speech, and so far 130 million people have listened to it. The guy's name is Rick Rigsby, Dr. Rick Rigsby. Anybody saw it? Apparently only 4 of the 130 million are in this room, but that's okay. So here's a guy who's telling this story. He wrote a book entitled Lessons Learned from a Third Grade Dropout. That was his dad. See, when his dad was young, they were so broke that he had to drop out of school and go to work to help support the family. and he couldn't ever go to college or finish even high school, but he kept working, and he kept being a man of integrity. He got married and had a couple of kids. And this son, even though his father was a third-grade dropout, has 4 degrees. He was a professor at Texas A&M for 2 decades, and was also the chaplain of the Aggie football team. His brother is a judge, and his father was a dropout. But just because he was a dropout, he didn't let that be a story of defeat. He didn't let that be a story of hopelessness. In fact, his father was committed to raising a great family and raising not boys, but men of integrity, men of character, men of honesty, men who want to make a positive impact in the world. He could have taken that hopeless story that he didn't have a great education, but he took it and he created a redemption story, a story of overcoming and hopefulness. So this guy, Rick Rigsby, he was in college. He did so well. He got married to the woman of his dreams, and unfortunately, after they'd had 2 kids, she got cancer and she died, and it just devastated him. And his father said, "Son, just stand. Don't give up. Find meaning and purpose in what you are going through, and you will do great things. You will survive this, and you will do great things." He went on to get more degrees. He raised his boys by himself, and today travels all over the world, literally, teaching people and inspiring people to live their lives to fullness and have an impact. And he told himself, he could have told himself a different story, that his life was over after his wife died, but he told him a great story of hope and redemption. So again, what is the story you are telling about the difficult times in your life? What is the story you're telling of all the things and the overall impact of 2017 in your life? The fact is, this isn't easy. Life isn't easy, but we have the power to name things, to tell the stories, to give meaning to it that help us rise to greater heights and greater levels. I think every one of us has enough excuses of difficult things that happen to us that we could give up on life, that we could say, "I'm done. I'm tired of trying. I've been beat down too much, been put down too much." We all have that excuse, and we could use it if we want, or we could choose to use that power to name, to give meaning, and to tell stories of hope, redemption, and possibility regardless of what happened. There are lessons in all the challenges we face. The question is, will we take time to extract it, define it, and to pull forth that meaning to make the new year an even better year? And the fact is, some of this stuff hurts. And it's important to not only name it and give it meaning, but sometimes do the processing and the healing of the things, the devastation and the loss and tragedy, and to grieve those things in a healthy way. Studies show that when you've been through trauma and you hide it and bury it and never talk about it and keep it a secret, it actually has detrimental effects to your health, to your peace of mind, your well-being, and the quality of your relationships. They did a study about how we can actually, it's therapeutic to let out and to share your stuff and release the pain. They did a study at a university that they brought people in for 15 minutes for 4 days and asked them to write about the most upsetting experience of their lives. And they had to go through all the emotions and the hurts and the feelings that they had and the desire to let go. And there were people there who had been mugged or raped. They had lost loved ones. They had attempted to commit suicide. And what they did following them over a period of time, they found that they tended to be healthier. They tended to be happier. They tended to be less anxious and less depressed. Why? Because they allow that negative energy to be liberated and released from them, that allowed that energy to actually do more positive and joyful things in the world. Hey, anybody ever have something happen in your life or in your year, and even though you're the kind of person who thinks, what can I learn from this? It caught you off guard. It slapped you upside your head to the point you thought, why in the world did that happen? What is going on? Anybody ever have one of those? Okay. So sometimes we get things. I got a couple of things right now in my life, and I'm thinking, what happened? What was up with that? What's the message there? And we have those, and here's how we process them. You remember when Joseph got thrown into the pit by his brothers? One of my favorite lines in the whole Bible is, man meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And the point I'm trying to say is, if there's something in your life that has got you baffled of why did that happen, you can't figure out which end is up, just that simple prayer, God means this for good. Just take a deep breath. And let's half-voice say together, God means this for good. Together, God means this for good. That even if you can't see the answer now, just open a space that God means it for good. Trust that God has a plan and a purpose for your life, and just know God means it for good. You don't have to figure it out. Don't overthink or analyze. Just open a space and trust and believe and get clear and know that God means it for good. I don't know about you, but I've had many difficult things happen in my life, and I don't get the answer, the light bulb doesn't go on for sometimes 3 years or 5 years. I think, oh, that's what that was trying to teach me. I'm a bit of a slow learner, but I do get there eventually. And I suspect I may not be the only one, but I don't know. Because sometimes things don't come as quick as we want. But we still need to open a space and not let that energy undermine us by just saying, God means this for good. This will work out. This will make me stronger and better in some way. And just have the faith to put it out there. You know, the message I'm trying to give today is don't just gloss over, brush over, go too fast over the past year and try to rush to get to the new one. Take time to get the gift. Take time to get the lesson. Take time to get the strength and the wisdom of what all the experiences you have. They're not random experiences. They're yours. Called by your soul to help you grow and unfold and become all who you came here to be. Everybody's heard of post-traumatic stress disorder. These guys do some study at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun, and they call it post-traumatic growth. They say that if you are able to find meaning in what you are going through and tell yourself a redemptive story about that experience while owning and processing it, not stuffing it, that you will rise and grow in ways that will amaze you. He said these are the 4 ways that we tend to grow. Number 1 is when you go through a traumatic experience and find meaning and process the stuff, what you find is your relationships get stronger. You know why? Because nobody does anything alone. To the people who are around you, you begin to acknowledge them and appreciate them and love them more. Your relationships actually become stronger. Another one is when you find meaning through a traumatic thing, it gives you new paths and sense of purpose. When you go through difficult things, you know what? Your priorities get a little clearer. You get a little clear about who you are. You get a little clearer about what's really valuable and important, and you begin investing time there. And sometimes you'll find new ways, because of your difficulty, to have compassion for others and want to actually help other people. The third thing is you find inner strength and more resilience. That when you go through a difficult thing and find meaning, that I went through that hard time because it taught me how to be like this and help me do greater things, that you will find more confidence and faith in yourself. You know, the fourth one is will deepen your spiritual life, that you will feel a greater awareness and a greater connection, more awakened, you know, and more aware that there is a higher purpose and plan going on. And then the fifth one is you begin to just appreciate life more. So when you've been through the ringer, you know, everything is sweeter and nicer and more joyful. The simple things, because you've been to those harder places. You know, Viktor Frankl wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Anybody read that fabulous, amazing book? And, you know, he developed a thing called logotherapy, but it's about meaning. Find meaning in the difficult things you're doing. So he was helping these 2 guys. They felt like the life wasn't worth going on. One of them had a young kid, and one was a scientist. And here's what he wrote. It was really interesting. He said, in how to treat them and help them find meaning. Here's what he wrote. He said, it was a question of getting them to realize that life was still expecting something of them. That something in the future was expected of them. And I love this, because what it's saying that is even when you're down, you know what? Life is expecting you to learn. Life is expecting you to get up. Life is expecting you to grow and develop into more than you think you can be and more of what you are meant to be to do even greater things. Life is expecting you to grow, to find meaning, and to get better from those experiences. I love what it says in the Gospel of Thomas. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And I believe when we die with our dreams left inside, when we die with our potential and the possibilities, it does wither us in a way. And when we bring it forth, it saves us, but it brings more light and joy into the world. What I've come to realize is when we go through these difficult experiences, we have a responsibility to stop and to learn and to heal and to get the gift and blessings to help us do more good into the world. That we have a responsibility for our existence, and we have a responsibility to make a difference to all humanity. It is New Year's Eve day. And it's exciting that a new day is coming tomorrow and a new year. But let's not rush too fast. Let's take a moment to learn, to get the lessons, to get the blessings, and to use those things to help us become all we came here to be and to do the great things we came to do. 2018 will be a great year. The question is, what is the meaning you are giving to this year? God bless you all.